Hello and welcome to Let's Talk Sports. I am Ralph Lavella.
And I'm Ron Sen. Before we get to high school football, I want to share my excitement. My copy of Basketball Methods arrived today, 1962 book by Pete Newell. Now, most of you never heard of Pete Newell. Who's Pete Newell? Well, he's considered the greatest basketball teacher, no longer alive. He won the NIT as a coach, the NCAA with Cal in 1959, and the Olympics. He literally founded the school that ran the big man camp. In his last 8 encounters against John Wooden, the legendary UCLA Bruins, Newell's team were 8-0. So he had Wooden's number. And he just has a wealth of information about coaching philosophy, leadership, and the nitty-gritty. Some people credit him with developing the press. He was a major force in promoting basketball history, and he also developed one of the first motion offenses with his reverse action offense. Maybe we'll get to talk about that someday. But first, we really need to talk about Melrose football going to the Super Bowl. I didn't get to go there because I had to work, but Ralph got to go to Gillette, and he can share his part of the experience with you.
Yeah, it was really unbelievable, Ron. You get there, right, and you have to get your press pass. They tell you where to go. Well, Jeff handled all that. And you go in, and I met Jeff outside of our booth, and I see Andy Gresh there and Freed. They were doing the games with CSN, and we're right beside them in a press box. But looking out in the field, it was just unbelievable. The lighting is just, and I've never been to Gillette Stadium at the night, and I've been to some day games, but not at night. It was just so nice. You're watching the game. The field is so beautiful that it was pouring out, but you really couldn't tell. And it was windy as anything, and you couldn't really tell until the game ended and we went outside and it was blowing, and it's unbelievable how they even threw the ball in that game with the wind and the rain. But what an experience it was. I've told some guys in work, I said, it's really something. And you have the monitors right there so you can see the replays. I didn't think that Dartmouth scored the first touchdown. I think they just came up short, and the replay just about showed it, and not quite. I mean, no one really could tell, but he bounced. The running back, Martin, bounced, and the ref gave him the touchdown. But it was really enjoyable. I really enjoyed doing it. I love doing the game. I mean, the way Melrose's defense came around after the first 2 scores, it was really something. They just shut down Dartmouth. It was a very good football game with the conditions the way they were.
Well, watching on TV, I was really impressed with Melrose's effort throughout, but especially how they hung in there tough during the second half. Knew the conditions were poor, and Dartmouth's obviously an excellent team. They had second half success beating Walpole to get there, so you knew it was going to be a real struggle. Credit to all the coaching staff and the players for all they did, not only in that game, but to beat 3 outstanding teams, Woburn, Concord Carlisle, and Tewksbury, to get to the Super Bowl. Fabulous story about the dads from the 1982 team who got to revisit that experience with their sons. I'm sure that was memorable for both. Kind of reminded me of the movie Friday Night Lights.
Yeah, and it was a very good game. I mean, you look at it, and you know how I am. You get that running game going. You have that strong offensive line, especially with the conditions, and you just pounded at Dartmouth. That's the advantage Melrose had over Dartmouth in the game. With their 2 lead blockers in Mercer and McLaughlin, with Hickey following them. But I think the big break that Dartmouth got is Pedrini got hurt. He didn't play in the second half at all, and you could see Hickey was getting tired there on one of the drives. They got down to Dartmouth's 20-yard line, and they took Hickey out to give him a break, and they went away from that running game that they had going with the lead blockers because Dartmouth couldn't contain it. I mean, Mercer and McLaughlin were just blowing the linebackers out. I remember one run I called, before I even called Hickey's name, and was running around the left side. McLaughlin just blew out the linebacker, and then Mercer was right behind him, and he came, and he was leading Hickey, and he just blew out the outside cornerback, and Hickey gained about 14 yards. But that's what they really had going well. But Pedrini's injury, that's where they really got hurt. Because again, Hickey just couldn't, he got tired. But I would have put maybe Mercer and McLaughlin, let them run behind 2 blockers. But I mean, that's what really hurt them. But they competed well with Dartmouth.
Well, in the immediate aftermath of a defeat in a championship game, there's always going to be some disappointment. But as time goes on, I'm sure the players and everyone involved is going to appreciate everything that it took for the team and the community to have a chance to get to that opportunity. Now, I certainly have been through the disappointment, seen my daughters, lose in a state championship game. But, in the long run, there's a lot of excitement and good feeling about it rather than any lingering, oh, if only this happened or only that.
Oh, I said it at the end of the game. I was really proud of the whole program, the players, the coaches, and the program. And when you look at, you just talked about it earlier, what they did. They beat 3 top 20 teams, and really they were in 1 top 10 team. And they played a team that beat a top 5 team in the finals. And they played them head to head. But you look at that game, a lot of those teams in that game that day got blown out. There were 3 games where it wasn't even close. This game here, you're playing a team who beat a top 5 team in Walpole, a really good team, and you're playing them head to head, and they basically outplayed them after the first quarter. But they didn't get that one big break. But you talk about being proud. I mean, that team gave everything they had. I mean, they didn't lose that game.
No,
Duggan won it.
There are always some notable plays to discuss. The long pass to Pedrini, I still can't really understand how he caught the ball. There are 2 defenders draped all over him.
But the funny thing, though, Ron, is I'm seeing Pedrini out there, I'm seeing a ball in the air, and I felt so confident. He's come down with so many passes this year.
No, I know. He's out-battled people repeatedly. And then Will Caffey deserves credit for 2 plays, stopping a touchdown near the end of the first half right down by the goal line, and then forcing a fumble late in the game against the running back Martin. So he had a terrific game in addition to his touchdown late against Tewksbury. So, people have a lot of reasons to be excited about how this season went, and can't really express enough credit to all the people who were involved.
Yeah, look at the last 5 years, and we've been doing the games. I think it's 5 years now, isn't it, around there? Every season's been really good. I mean, they've had very good teams. They're always well prepared, and the kids come from nowhere. I mean, you look at them, they're like 140 pounds when they're sophomores, and they get built up, and by the time they're juniors and seniors, I mean, they're stars. I mean, at the end of the season, they didn't have anybody weak on that team. Everybody they put in was a strong player. A kid like Auger, a junior, he made a couple of big tackles in that game on the special teams. Now, next year, they're going to rely on him. He'll probably be a very good inside linebacker. He'll turn out to be very good, like Feeney turned out to be tremendous. As the season went on, he got better and better. And with the injuries, like Slavacheski going down, and they could only play him one way. But I'll tell you one thing about Slavacheski. When Duggan was running the ball in that first quarter, they put Slavacheski in there at defensive end to help out. And he did a very good job. And you knew he's hurting big time.
Well, and you look at Corellis comes in as a senior. He has 16 touchdown passes, I believe. Terrific season. I don't think anybody could have expected that from him. Just played outstanding football the whole season.
Yeah, Corellis was excellent. He threw the ball downfield as well as anybody. But those conditions, that last drive, he threw a pass to Bizzotti. Basically, it was kind of like a fly pattern. The ball was right there, and the defensive back came from nowhere, came up in the air, and just got his hand on it. That was so close because Bizzotti was at the 20-yard line when the player deflected the pass, and it was going right into his hands. What I said, the Dartmouth's secondary was the best I've seen all year. They deflected more passes in that game than all the teams combined against Melrose.
I expressed some negative thoughts because time was running out at home, and my wife says, you can't be negative. And I say, I have a formula that I use late in the game.
Oh, yeah,
that if you have to be, let's say if you're 80 yards to score, you have to have 80 seconds or 50 seconds and three timeouts. Or if it's 50 yards, you have to have 50 seconds or 30 seconds on the clock and 2 timeouts. And Melrose needed to go about 60 yards, and they only had something like 40 seconds left at the end. I said, it's really hard to do that, even with the time stopping after our first down and so forth. But just a great football game, a great season, and I was really blessed to be part of it, to get to announce a few of the games.
Yeah, it was just, but you look at it, Ron, and the kids, I mean, they cannot be down about that. They did everything they could to win that game. That interception at the end of the game, Corellis' pass, was right there to Caffey. Again, the secondary was
Right.
unbelievable for Dartmouth. I mean, Corellis, and that Pizzotti, Pastor Pizzotti was right there. But what I'm saying is, you look at the offensive line, that whole team, and how hard McLaughlin and Mercer played, the blocks they did the whole game, Hickey, how hard he ran the ball, Pedrini. And then the defense coming up great, the last 3 quarters playing just tremendous football. I mean, what else can you do?
Well, we're going to change gears here a little bit. Any of you who've ever watched the movie Kingpin is familiar of the story of Woody Harrelson playing Munson, the one-armed bowler who's trying to make a comeback. And as the story develops, Randy Quaid, his sidekick, says something about being Munsoned. Munsoned is when your whole world falls in upon you, when you totally blow it, going from a condition of having everything going your way. I'm going to coin a new term that's going to be into use in the very near future. It's going to be Lucchinoed. And the Red Sox are being Lucchinoed as Larry Lucchino, hardball lawyer, chief operating officer of the Red Sox, felt it necessary to offer John Lester figurative peanuts, $70 million in 4 years, which is a joke in today's baseball market where mediocre pitchers get that kind of money. And now we hear that it's come to the end. It's going to be a minimum of 6 years, $150 million, probably some sweeteners, maybe a 7th year with vesting options, and we don't even know which team he's going to. I'm not going to say that it's going to be a good deal for whoever gets him, because it usually isn't. When I've looked at in the past top pitchers from the ages of 27 to 33, how they did over a 6-year period, on average they won 15 games a year. Now, is Lester going to be able to win 15 games per year over 6 years? Who knows? But anyway,
is he 31 now?
He's 30 in like 4 months, something like that. He'll be close to 31 when the season starts. So whoever gets him probably ends up overpaying, and we're all going to remember that we got Lucchinoed.
I think it's going to be the Cubs. I think it's going to be the Cubs. When they look at it in a couple of years, they're going to say that the Red Sox lucked out, because he's not going to earn $25 million a year, and especially if he goes to the Cubs. I mean, the Cubs, they have a young team and they have some talent. They got some pretty good hitters, but I mean, the Cubs aren't going to win over there. I mean, they'll get better than they've been, but they're going to give him $25 million a year, and he's not going to be a lead pitcher. You don't want, in 2 years, he's not going to be as, his fastball's not going to be as quick, his slider's not going to bite as much, and they're going to be paying him $25 million. And the Cubs are going to give him a 7-year contract.
Well,
that's how they're going to get him.
And the other point that comes out is a lot of times when people get the big money, like Josh Beckett, when he got the money, I heard from my sources inside the Red Sox organization that Beckett just said, I've got my money and that's all that matters. So it wasn't really about winning anymore, it was about getting paid. So sometimes players don't train as hard, don't care as much. I'm not saying that's going to be Lester's case, but you don't know.
Yeah, but the Red Sox, they really want him now, but I think they really feel is they're going to give him that $25 million offer for 6 years, and the Cubs are going to give him 7 years. I know Lester would rather play for the Red Sox, but he's going to look at making maybe $20 million more than he would have with the Red Sox, and that's going to be a factor. But he'd be more comfortable with the Red Sox, but I believe he's going to go to the Cubs, and I think the Red Sox will be happy that he goes there, and they'll get a couple of other pitchers like Shields, they'll overpay him, and someone else, maybe make the trade for Hamill. And
well, I would love to hear a player come and say, not only am I taking care of my family, but if somebody offered you ridiculous money over a ridiculous amount of time, wouldn't you take it? And I don't see anything wrong with it. It's called professional baseball. They get paid, the owners are making tons of money, the TV revenues are constantly going up. I don't blame the players. That's what the market is. So if you take a market-based contract, nobody should be disappointed.
Right. I mean, you have to go with the money. I mean, Chicago's a nice place to play too. So
right.
That'll work out.
I mean, from your situation, there was something about a number of judges going to retire with a salary boost, and they waited because they hadn't got any raises for a really long time. I'm sure your situation is similar. So I don't blame people for doing what's the interest of themselves and their family. Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, the judges, I mean, they waited 8 years, and they got the raise.
It's a long time. Now, just to switch gears, you're all familiar with Newton's laws from high school, and the second law is force acting upon a mass creates acceleration. Well, we're not talking about Isaac Newton here, we're talking about Cam Newton. Cam Newton was driving his truck today, and apparently it rolled over 4 times. My guess is he was going more than the speed limit, and he has 2 fractured vertebrae, so-called transverse processes in his back. So if you're playing your football card or in your football pool, Cam Newton is not going to be there this week for the Panthers.
How long you out with something like that?
Well, Romo was only out for a week, I think, when he had his. But Trot Nixon, now that's baseball, of course, he missed a lot of time when he was in the minors because of a similar injury.
But the Yankees signed Miller.
Yankees
and
signed Miller.
They let Robinson go. The White Sox signed Robinson, so.
Another big football news is that Brian Hoyer is out as quarterback in Cleveland.
It's about time.
I know, he's really struggled lately. And Johnny Manziel is in. Marvin Lewis, the Bengals coach, had a serious lapse in judgment. And to quote him, he said something like, what are we worried about him? A little midget. Well, that immediately got condemnation from the Little People of America, who in 2009 announced that was unacceptable in a derogatory term. And but in any event, Manziel, he'll bring a lot of excitement. How that's going to work, the Bengals lost to the Browns 24-3 in their first encounter, so they've got a, Browns have a good shot. So we'll see what happens.
I think it was a big mistake. I know Cleveland started off really well this year, but Manziel, he has so much talent. He's definitely going to be a star in this league. And look at Wilson for Seattle. And he's got, I think he has Wilson has turned out to be tremendous, but he's just as talented. He can throw the ball. People don't realize he has a very good arm. He has an arm like Flutie had when he came up, and he can run, and he's going to be fun to watch, and I think it's going to work out really well for the Browns.
My only question is not going to be his accuracy, not going to be his running. It's going to be his decision-making, because when he was at Texas A&M? Yeah, he had a tendency to throw the ball into traffic, and he had receivers that make plays. And in the NFL, you've got the gazelles in the defensive backfield who can really close. So we'll see whether those balls thrown up for grabs work out.
But a lot of people really don't know what they're talking about. I saw him play, I love watching him last year. I saw a ton of his games. And he stays in the pocket. People think that he runs, he throws on the run and stuff. He stays in the pocket. He'll wait, he'll move his feet, he'll wait for someone to come open. So they're wrong when they say that he doesn't stay in the pocket. And I think he's going to be tremendous. I really do. And I can't believe that people are saying that he's not going to make it.
Well, other local stories, the Revolution had a chance to compete for an MLS championship in soccer. That didn't work out for them, and that's probably about as much as you can say for that. Now they're talking about a dedicated soccer stadium in South Boston. God forbid that the taxpayers be asked to pay for a soccer stadium. That's all I have to say.
Well, they want one that holds about 30,000 people. They
Right.
don't want a huge one, and they want it in Boston because they'll sell out every game.
Right.
And you see that last goal, the winner for LA?
Right.
How did they let 2 guys get by him? What were they thinking, the defensemen? You never let anybody get by you.
Well, it was a bad goal, no question about it. I did see the end of the game, and the Revolution averaged over 19,000 tickets per game this season. MLS just signed a contract, I think it was 7 years or 8 years for $90 million. So they're starting to get recognition. The league's only been around, I think, for 19 years. So, it takes time. The National Football League wasn't a big thing in 19 years into existence. It's not like it is now. So we'll see what happens. Now, one thing that with the building a new stadium, there's talk about the Olympics coming to Boston. I don't know how you feel about that, but there's enough traffic here already without the Olympics.
Yeah, there's no way Boston's going to get it. There's just no way. It's too congested. I mean, how are you going to have it in Boston? Well, but the other cities, they have them on the outskirts too. They have the stadiums. They don't have them right in the city, but they won't have it in Boston.
I mean, I don't know if they're thinking these, casino developments are going to have the hotel space and so forth. I don't see it.
But one thing, going back to soccer, it reminds me of wrestling in a way. I'm watching a game. I only put it on for maybe 5 minutes, and about 4 players are down holding their leg. And 2 of them didn't even get hit. I'm saying, you got to be kidding me, because they want timeouts. I said, they're acting. I said, that's what it reminded me of wrestling. I mean, number one, it's a terrible sport to me. I can't watch it. I don't know where. Well,
Well,
the skills. If you can run and kick the ball, I guess.
There is a lot of embellishment of fouls in soccer, and if you go to YouTube, I think there's a video that's short, it's maybe 40 seconds, called Italian Soccer Practice, and it shows people running around and just falling artistically to make it look like they've been fouled. It's really pretty funny, and you know, obviously, Melrose had a player, Franzi Perot, who's playing at Northeastern. He was outstanding player, but also he knew how to draw fouls as well. He had all the techniques on, you know, getting pulled down in the penalty area, and that's what experienced players know how to do. They can draw penalties.
Well, you played soccer.
Yeah, I played back in the dark ages when if you fell down, it was because somebody whacked you. It wasn't because you fell down on purpose. The game was way more physical back then and not nearly as skill-based as it is now. Coming up next, we'll have Lou with a little discussion about Tom Brady's vocabulary, and is that inappropriate?
So let me get this straight. You're talking about the NFL, we're talking about American football, billion-dollar industry. The best team in the AFC, the Patriots, faces off against the best team in the NFC, and it's a hard-fought game on the road. Patriots almost got it done, and they didn't. And Tom Brady, being the competitor that he is, swore. Okay? And then the Boston Globe, I wouldn't line a cat box with the Boston Globe, first of all. And secondly, they didn't even have the courage of their conviction to put a name on the article. Are you kidding me? In plain English, are you kidding me? So he said, what's the big deal? He swore. Of course he's going to do that. What do you think I would have done if I was out there and I just lost to the Packers when I could have ran the table on the rest of the season? Home field advantage. Now we got Denver right on our tails. Of course he was mad. Because I'm mad that we live in this ridiculous world that everybody's got an opinion and everybody can write something and everybody can say something. Look, and even I'm saying something. Who gives a rat's fat? He swore. And then they went out and beat San Diego next week. Now we're all happy again. No more puff pieces from the Globe. Do they even exist anymore anyway? Who bought that to you? Who owns the Globe? Oh yeah, John Henry. What would John Henry say if one of his Red Sox players swore? Do you think we'd see an article? I didn't think so. But anyway, enough about the censorship. Enough about the word. Who cares? The Patriots are in first place. We're all happy, and I'm happy. Are you happy?
Welcome back. We'll talk a little bit about coaching. Since Ralph and I have coached for a long time, we love coaching. And one of the most important things in coaching is getting your players to buy in to what you do and how you do it. And that, first of all, means a really good knowledge of the game and an excellent knowledge of your system, whatever that is. Additionally, players need to know that you're having a relationship with them, that you're there for them, that you're adding value to what they do. And it's important to catch them doing things right. People don't want to be beat down all the time, you know, sort of Tom Coughlin style. I think eventually it wears you out if people are hammering on you all the time that you're not doing enough good things. And you know, I'm really fortunate that I have some great assistants. I think I have probably the best middle school assistants in the history of middle school basketball. I have Lindley D'Amato, former college basketball player, was an all-star in her league. I have, and she, as well as a Middlesex All-League player and a Melrose co-captain. Unofficially, I have my daughter Karen, who's helping out, a Middlesex League All-League player and former All-State player in volleyball. And Haley Mate is helping out a little bit too, working with players. So it's just awesome to have so much help with young people.
Yeah, well, you have a sixth grade. This is the first time. I mean, you've been with me all for a number of years, and you're still with me. You're still helping me out with the seventh grade team when you can. But yeah, you look at that, it's great to see. I know the parents are happy when they see your daughter there and Lindley there and Haley there. The younger girls look up to them. I mean, they're really good with them. And you know, I look at it from your point of view, you're trying to get this team prepared to play against the best. And I know you're thinking next year you want to put them in the best leagues. And you're really working with, you know, the group you're working with, you have a number of players who really haven't played travel and never before.
Right.
So, I mean, they couldn't be in a better situation than what you have going there. And then I look at my situation is I'm pushing and pushing and pushing. And sometimes, you know what I was thinking the other day, Ron? I'm thinking, you know, it's not fair to some of the players because I'm trying to get them to be A-League players quicker than maybe they should be. You know, maybe they should, well, they're in the 7th, next year's the 8th, then they're going to high school. And I'm putting a lot of pressure on them to get there and to work hard and to understand the game better. And you would, if they had the right idea, if they had the right mindset coming in that, hey, I'm going to do everything I can. But, you know, they're not all Colleen Hanscoms. They're not all Hannah Brickleys, you know, and you got to realize that part of it too, because those girls were just elite players. I mean, they'd go in, I mean, they had the talent, but they'd go out and they were competitors too. And what I'm trying to do is get my group to become, you know, true competitors. I mean, not just think I just have to go out and run up and down the court and I'm going to kill B-League players.
Now, this is a trick question. If you could run any offense that you'd choose, what would you do? Now, there are a myriad of basketball offenses. With my group, we're not at the point fundamentally that we can run any offense effectively. Some of the major ones, certainly people talk about Tex Winter's triangle offense, and if you talk about an offense that's won 11 out of 24 NBA championships, okay, that was Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant, which makes a huge difference. That's a big one. I love the Dean Smith passing game. I'm not a huge fan of the flex, which is another commonly run offense. And the motion offense, again, that takes a lot of creativity on the part of players that you really need experienced players. It's pretty hard to do that with a younger group. But what would you do if you had anything you could run?
Well, number one, you transition, you want a fast break. And our philosophy has always been, you let them decide. You push the ball up until you decide that you don't have the advantage any longer, and then you run the motion offense. You know, I think setting picks away from the ball, setting picks on the ball, I mean, that opens up a lot of things. You know, the motion offense, you're putting a lot of pressure on the defense because you're constantly moving. You run an offense like the Melrose girls used to run at times when they weren't doing well. I mean, they were just passing the ball side to side. They weren't cutting through. They weren't doing anything. I mean, you know, and that was only 1 or 2 years they were running that. But that type of offense is completely useless. And running plays. Plays, I'm telling you, Ron, good teams pick up how to defend plays after you run it a couple of times.
Yeah. The two major styles are dribble drive, where you have these really athletic players, athletic teams like Kentucky. They spread the floor, 4 out, 1 in, or 5 out, and then people take the ball to the basket, they beat their guy. If people leave, they either pass to a rolling player down the middle, or else they pitch out for threes.
The Watertown boys.
Yeah, so you have, dribble drive, and then the second major philosophy is heavy screening. Now, screening restricts your spacing, but it's really hard to cover. So you have teams like Michigan State, they always have huge, tough guys, and they set tons of screens and get a lot of interior scoring that way. And they're not mutually exclusive. You can run screens with anything, but I mean, if you have super athletic players, why not spread the floor?
Right, like, you know, on my team, Maggie and Jen run the pick and roll unbelievably well. I mean, almost as good as Brooke Bell and Sydney Doherty used to run it. They used to run it the best because they used to attack the basket, and Sydney would score just about every time they'd run it. We run it a little further away with Maggie and Jen, but they run it well. I mean, if everybody understood how to run it that way, I mean, Maggie's very good at it, and you want our 4s and 5s to be able to do that. I don't know what you run. I know your girls are real young, and to run the pick and roll properly.
Yeah, we really have.
You got a great center, though.
Yeah, we have a lot of issues. We've only had 6 practices so far. We have to work on everything. So, you know, fundamental skills more than anything else. We've worked on defending the pick and roll more than running the pick and roll so far. We're off to a good start. But as long as we're on the subject of basketball, the Celtics miraculously won 3 games in a row and lost in double overtime last night with kind of an unusual phenomenon where the starters got benched and the bench came in and scored 82 points, set their most records ever for a Celtics team off the bench. And notably, Rajon Rondo was sat down.
I enjoyed it. Well, we both know how we feel about Rondo. We thought 3 years ago he should have been traded. Ainge made a mistake. He should have got whatever, even if he could have got a first-round draft pick. He has smart now. The plays he has, I love Olenek. You know, Olenek was in the game at the end. They had Bass was in there with Green, and they had Turner. Turner, you know,
Right.
Turner, I think they're looking at it. I think Stevens is looking at it. I want to give Turner more time, and the only way you can give him more time is with Rondo out of there. But I think Ainge made a huge mistake not getting rid of Rondo because you cannot. There's no way. We talked about it last year. There's no way. How can we be fans going and watch a game with Rondo at the point guard?
First of all, anybody who watches the Celtics knows Rondo has to pound the ball, hold the ball, wait for somebody to come open so he can get assists, which is your primary job as an offensive player is to create for your teammate in some fashion. However, if it's about getting assists for yourself, that's selfish. That's not unselfish basketball. Second is field goal percentage. Percentage of shots made right now is 38.6. That's pitiful, especially for a guy who takes a fair number of layups. Third is free throw percentage. As pitiful as his field goal percentage is, free throw percentage is 32%. Ralph and I could easily go out and shoot better than 32% on our worst day. I mean, it's embarrassing.
I think he wants out of there. I think he's being a good soldier right now because he wants the max contract. I'll tell you one thing, I bet my house he'll never get close to the max contract. And, I mean, you look at it, more and more teams are saying, why do we want him? The Lakers, I think, are the one team with, you know, Kobe, he needs a point guard. And they went out for breakfast the other day. I mean, I'd love to see them just make the trade. If they can get their number one pick.
Well, they're not going to get their, I mean, it's probably going to be protected this year because the Lakers will be, you know, bottom of the barrel.
Well, maybe a bottom 5 protection or whatever. But,
right.
I mean, for a real fan, I know the owners like Rondo because he brings out the younger fans who don't know any better. They just want flashiness. They want to see a guy. I mean, he made a great bounce pass the other day, three-quarter bounce pass. He does that back, the Pete Maravich move, you know, and all that. And the younger kids like it, but they don't understand the game. I mean, the people that really understand the game are the people who love the UConn girls basketball team, who love execution. You know what I mean? I mean, that's what I love. I love watching a team execute the game. And the Celtics execute the game way better when Rondo's not there.
There's a site on YouTube. You can subscribe to different sites called Coach Daniel. I don't know if his first name is Daniel or his last name is Daniel, but he breaks down video from a lot of teams. The Knicks and their triangle offense, the Spurs. You watch his videos of the Spurs, they are just phenomenal. The Spurs just play the best kind of basketball you can play.
But, you know, the Spurs, I know, and they're the Popovich is well respected, but you know how I feel about that. He made the worst basketball move, and I think in all the years I've watched basketball, by taking Duncan out twice, sitting him down at the end of the game and letting Miami get the rebound twice. Remember, James missed the three-pointer when they were down 5. James missed that first three-pointer with 28 seconds ago. He was out, but so wasn't Boss out. So I says, okay, you get Duncan out. And I'm thinking ahead, I'm saying, what if they miss the shot? That's when everybody scattered. That's when you get a wide open 3. So James, James was playing terrible there. He made 3 mistakes. So he misses a shot. They get the rebound, kick it back to James, he gets a 3. They come back and hit only 1 out of 2 foul shots, and Duncan's still out.
Well, it's very interesting to change the subject, is that a number of players in the NFL and the NBA have been wearing I Can't Breathe T-shirts in sympathy with Eric Garner, and everybody knows what they're. And I'm not here to talk about social issues, but rather to say that a lot of times athletes shy away from getting involved in the discussion because they are making big money on endorsements and they don't really want to ruffle anybody's feathers one way or the other. So I find that intriguing that there's a little bit of a sea change in that regard, wherever you stand on the politics.
Well, one of the football, was it St. Louis?
St. Louis.
St. Louis is involved now. They want to be out there with the community and, you know, try to settle things down and talk over things. And, you know, all I can say is that I wish the president handled things a little differently, wish our governor handled things a little differently, and the mayor of New York handled things a little differently. You know, I have my feelings about it, and I think, you know, I wish people would just forget the black and white issue and just, because no one thinks that. I'd say, compared to when I was a teenager, I never think that way. We never think that way. People I know never think that way.
Well, we don't,
You
but
kind of, it kind of
anyway.
hurts when it becomes, black and white issue, when it should just be an
Well-
issue of a police handle things a certain way.
Well, that's why we love basketball. When you evaluate a player, you're evaluating on the player and what he or she can do, not by any other criteria. Now, obviously, Golden State is ranked #1 in the quote polls of the NBA, but they've got 2 losses. They've only played the Spurs once, and they lost at home to the Spurs. To me, the Spurs are the champ.
Forget about it.
The Spurs are the champ until you dethrone them.
They were talking to me in work. A couple of lawyers came up to me and they go, we're talking basketball, the Celtics, and then, Golden State and all those other teams, Memphis. I said, forget about it. I says, there's only one team. One team's going to come out of there. It's going to be San Antonio, unless they have major injuries. Even if they have a couple of injuries, the way that team plays. I mean, it was amazing the way they played against Miami last year.
And they're still playing that way. The player who is really underappreciated on San Antonio is Parker. Parker's really good. So unless he gets hurt, I don't see San Antonio losing. Duncan's steady, but Parker is the engine that keeps that team going. We'll be right back.
Hi, Scott Duggan, Director of Strength and Conditioning at Athletic Evolution in Woburn, Mass., and we're back with Athlete Tips of the Week. Today we're going to bring you part 3 of our 4-part series on ACL injury prevention. Today we're going to go over dynamic movements. We're going to take you through some dynamic movements that will assist in ACL injury prevention. The first one is my favorite, linear hurdle hops. Very important to kind of see this progress from phase 1, phase 2 to phase 3. Phase 1 is with a stick. So we're trying to build stability. We're trying to get the athlete to understand the movement itself. And then most importantly, on the sticking aspect, we're trying to get deceleration, build all those stabilizers around the knee, strengthen that joint so that when the athlete has contact or makes a cut, that knee is nice and stable when they get on the athletic field. So coaching points, we want the athlete as they progress over each hurdle to focus less on the height itself and more on the sticking aspect in the form in which they land. So we want the athlete every time they land to sink their hips, bring their knee straight over their foot and not let it dip in, pause for about 1 second going out. So we're gonna come up like so, have the athlete go through, sink and stick. As they come up, every time, we want them to be able to hold in that position and then stick every time as they go throughout. When they first get on the hurdles, they might have a little bit difficulty sticking, so we want to make sure we start them at a very low hurdle. Most athletes, even advanced high school, college athletes, I'll start on a 6-inch hurdle. Some younger athletes, I'll either just paint lines on the ground, put sticks, or actually take the hurdle itself and put it all the way down so it's just flat on the ground. The athlete can just jump over it and focus on the sticking aspect itself and their form. If they have difficulty where their knee is dipping in, we automatically want to think glute activation. We want to revert back to phase 2. Week 2, where we went over all of our glute activation exercises. I would add that to the program and have the athlete go through those prior to this. If they're having difficulty landing and sinking their hips, take them away from the hurdle itself and just get them to stand in place and sink their hips each time so that they can understand it. And then when we go through the hurdles, it translates all the way throughout. Phase 2, we're gonna progress to a mini bounce component. The best way to kind of describe it is a small hop and then a jump over the hurdle. So they're gonna leave the ground twice in between each hurdle. And what we're doing this for is for our younger athletes to help build elasticity in their muscles so that when we go to dynamic in phase 3, or when they do this actually on the field, that they're able to absorb and then jump back up. What we'll see in a lot of younger athletes who don't have elasticity is when they jump and they try to get up, they get stuck at the bottom, they're not able to get up as quickly. So going through, we're keeping those same jumping principles, but now we're no longer sticking, except at the end to show control, and it's just a hop and a jump, hop and a jump, and then we're gonna stick all the way through at the end. Phase 3, we're going into continuous. So now we're trying to make this practical. This is what someone would more likely do on sports. You're not really gonna, on a sport field or on a court, actually stick any of your jumps. You're more often than not gonna go continuous into the next one, and then we're trying to build on that elasticity, help activate the stretch reflex so we can jump a little bit higher. So just in place so you can see it, it's absorb and jump, absorb and jump. Often mistake we'll see on this for our athletes is they think it immediately means as soon as I touch the ground, I go all the way through. We liken that to imagining there's hot coals. As soon as you touch those hot coals, you want to immediately get off the ground. That's not the case. We want them to be constantly moving or continuously moving. So they're either absorbing down or they're coming up, but they're never sticking at the bottom. So it should look like this. So to teach an athlete, if they're having difficulty on the hurdles, just get them away from the hurdles and just teach them this movement, down and up. Then progress them onto the hurdles. We'll work with continuous, absorbing down, moving up for our jump, continuously moving. We always show a stick at the end to show control, build stability. So it's here, absorb and jump, stick all the way through at the end to show control. That takes us through our linear hurdle hops, the first dynamic movement that we add into our program for ACL injury prevention. For our next dynamic movement, we're going to move on to bilateral hurdle jumps, where we're jumping with 2 legs instead of the linear hurdle hops you saw where we're jumping on 1 leg. So on this movement, we're focusing on teaching the athlete proper hip hinge, proper hip power, and then we're still building that sticking component, that landing component in phase 1 to stabilize and brace everything around our knee joint. So for phase 1, same exact progressions as we did for linear hurdle hops. Now we're just going to 2-foot jumps. We can bring in a little bit of a higher hurdle because now the athlete is able to jump higher because he's on 2 feet. So just to kind of give you a view from the side, we want to cue or teach the athlete first to hip hinge properly so that they can jump properly. If they're having difficulty hip hinging, meaning bending around the waist, pushing their butt back, knees are secondary, slight bend naturally to the hip. If they're squatting it or they're not understanding this movement, we can take them up against the wall, be about a foot of length away from the wall, and just have them push their butt back towards the wall. So it's just looking like this, cueing them to push their butt back. Once they understand this, we can bring them to the hurdle, and we want to time up their arms and their hips together. So when the butt moves back, their arms move back. When the butt moves forward, their arms move forward. And then every time we jump over the hurdle, we want to tuck our knees to our chest, and we want to stick that landing on the bottom, so we want to absorb. So when I come up, I want to sink down and absorb, keeping my chest up, bring my butt back just like so, landing nice and softly. I like to use the analogy, landing like a ninja, or if I have my back turned to you, I shouldn't hear you land. So we don't want to have heavy feet when we land. We want to absorb that landing. So when I come up, it's here. Land nice and soft. So as I come up over the hurdle, we're focusing that those knees don't come in, as we talked about before. The knees come in, they go into valgus, regress, or move them back to week 2 when we went over our glute activation exercises. We're here, butt back, arms back, land up, land nice and soft, and stick our landing, progress all the way through, land nice and soft, and then finish at the end, all the way through. Once the athlete has mastered phase 1, we'll usually keep them in this about 3 to 4 weeks. We're going to progress to the same progression you saw in linear hurdle hops, which is a mini bounce to teach elasticity. So it's that hop and a jump we talked about, sticking at the end to show control. And then stick that landing. Phase 3, we're talking about continuous movement. So once again, we don't want to see that hot coals analogy we talked about, where as soon as they land, they're right back off the ground. We want to see that constant movement where they absorb down, activate that stretch reflex, and then move all the way up. So it's here, sink and absorb, stick at the end to show control. That takes us through phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3 of our bilateral hurdle jump progressions that help translate through ACL injury prevention. For our last dynamic movement for ACL injury prevention, we're gonna do wall marches to teach proper running mechanics. Oftentimes you'll see athletes put themselves in their knees in a position that is going to lead to future injury, possibly even an ACL injury because their running mechanics are wrong. So we do this exercise in our gym, but you can do it anywhere you can find a wall to help build running mechanics. So we're gonna start, have the athlete walk up against the wall, put his hands up against the wall. We want him in a little bit of a lean, just like when he's gonna run. His arms are gonna be locked out. He's gonna bring his knee up and his toe up. We wanna see that knee as high as possible. We wanna see that toe flexed up, and we wanna see full extension, triple extension, as we call it, of the ankle, knee, and hip, making sure those hips are all the way through and the butt's not back. Then we're gonna do it on coach, so he's gonna switch on me. He's gonna drive his leg into the ground. We're gonna look for triple extension. We're gonna look to stay in that forward lean, hip to stay all the way through. If I don't like what I see, then I'm gonna correct it between each rep. So first, switch, switch, switch. If something came up, I didn't like what I see, I wanna see a bigger, prouder chest. I wanna see this hip get all the way through. If his knee comes down, I can bring his, if his toe comes down, I can bring his toe up. If his knee comes down, I can bring his knee up. All of a sudden, sometimes you'll see the butt come all the way back. I can bring his butt all the way through, make sure he has a nice, proud chest, and then bring him right back in. Switch, switch, all the way through. Once the athlete has got this down, then what we'll do is we'll let them go continuous on their own. So we might start out with a couple switches and go into continuous. If I see something I don't like, then I can stop it. So it's gonna be switch, switch, go. Have them run, rest. A lot of times when they start to run, you'll see the athletes start to come up, Cole. Keep walking closer. They'll start to come up tall like this. We don't want that. We want to keep them in a nice lean. Or you'll see their butt come back, or they'll not get triple extension on the leg. So make sure we're looking for all these coaching points. Eventually, once the athletes master the wall, they've got proper running mechanics down, we can take them out onto the turf, and we can do any of our linear speed progressions, going from bounding, or going into ground starts, push-up starts, or going into flying 20s, flying 40s, and we can watch those same running mechanics. We want to see a proud chest. We want to see them in a nice forward lean. We want to see knee up, toe up. We want to see the hips all the way through. And we want to see nice triple extension of the hips, knees, and ankles. And then we can start to work in arm mechanics. But it starts with the wall, it progresses onto the turf. And if we build good running mechanics, then we're going to help further prevent ACL injuries when we get on the field. That concludes our dynamic movement segment of our ACL injury prevention series.
Welcome back. Now, we do not go over the topics in advance, so Ralph's getting totally blindsided here. If you could choose a quarterback for the next 3 years, starting from this Sunday, name your top 3 that you would choose. 3 years, any NFL quarterbacks.
Rodgers would be number 1. Wilson would be number 2, and Brady would be number 3.
Okay, see, I would have Rodgers number 1, Wilson number 2, and Luck number 3. The people talk about Wilson as a scrambling quarterback. For the most part, there's a difference between quarterbacks, the Randall Cunninghams of the world, who scramble to run, and Wilson, who scrambles to find a receiver. Because you're a lot less likely to get killed if you're not running downfield, and he runs out of bounds a lot too, which is brilliant. I mean, the guy is sensational. He's got a Super Bowl trophy already in his closet, and obviously Rodgers is terrific. I just think over a 3-year period, I don't know if Brady will last the whole 3 years.
But you look at it that way. I'm going to stick with that. I'm going to stick with Rodgers, Wilson, and Brady. Okay, because Brady's smarter than any of those quarterbacks, even smarter than Rodgers, but he doesn't have the talent that Rodgers has right now. But if I was starting a franchise, my guy starting a franchise would be Luck. All right? You're telling me 3 years,
Right.
But Luck over the next 12 years, he'll be the top quarterback. But you said for the next 3 years. But luck's got to be in there, but
Well,
not.
that's why I said earlier, I was thinking about, well, 5 years, and then you're not
Yeah.
going to pick Brady for 5 years because of his age.
But Brady's so much smarter than Luck. For the next 3 years in key situations, Luck's going to make the mistake. Although Brady's made a couple stupid mistakes lately too.
Yeah, he made that terrible pass in the Indianapolis game, and he basically did the same thing last week
Oh, that was
against San
terrible.
Diego.
He had Gronk wide open, and he made Mayo. What's his name? The guy from
Oh,
Notre
Manti
Dame.
Te'o.
Manti Te'o looked great, and he got beat by Gronk by 2 steps, but he underthrew him. But they're all close. But you got to go
Well-
with Rodgers over the next 3 years.
Well, I think it was Bedard was on TV today, and he's saying any of the top quarterbacks, if you get pressure on them 30% of the time, their performance gets tremendously degraded.
Well, look at Rodgers early in the game against the Patriots. Wasn't doing much. He was overthrown. He wasn't sharp because they were putting pressure on him early. Then he started getting away from it and started making good passes.
So, that's the key is the offensive line performance hasn't been quite as good. Brady obviously threw a lot of passes under duress, and fortunately Gronkowski can catch the ball when it's thrown down to his knees. But I don't know if, to me, it looks like Brady's accuracy is just going down over time.
Yeah, and you look at in the game against Green Bay, you look at Rodgers, and the difference in that game is Rodgers had all day to throw. He helped himself because he can move well, and Brady didn't have much time to throw. That was the difference between Rodgers and Brady. You put Rodgers on Green Bay and give him the time that Rodgers was getting with those receivers, Brady would have had an unbelievable game. So you got to look at that too. When he's under pressure, he's not as good as he used to be. But when he's not under pressure, remember we talked about it about a month ago. We said Brady still can be great if the players play great around him. But he needs him to play. He can't lead the team anymore.
On the Edelman touchdown, they had a max protect where they had 2 tight ends in blocking, and they set Edelman and somebody else out, and obviously that turned into a touchdown.
But one thing I've noticed with Brady is that he's passing the ball more to receivers that aren't open. He never did that before. He's throwing the ball, and you're saying, why did he even throw to that guy? He never did. He'd always look for his second, third receivers, and now, even the games he's getting time, I think he's just feeling it a little more at his age now. But he's still, he can still play great. He's still playing good.
The NFL is really sorting itself out. In the NFC, the 2 teams that look far ahead of the others are Green Bay and Seattle. Seattle's really playing tough. They're kind of back to where they were. Offensively, they do enough, and defensively, they just really are outstanding.
Right. Well, 3 games ago when people were knocking them, and I saw them play a game, and they looked great. The defense was coming, and I said, that's the team you got to watch out for. Originally, I said Green Bay, but then 3 weeks ago, I changed it to Seattle, and Seattle's just getting better and better.
Right.
with that defense.
Arizona lost their starting quarterback, Carson Palmer, so Stanton's not bad, but I don't know if he's good enough to get them anywhere. And in the AFC, obviously, you have the Patriots, Broncos, who have changed a bit lately because Manning seems to be wearing down, can't throw the ball downfield, and has had a lot of injuries to receivers. And then both of us worry a lot about Baltimore. Baltimore is just a tough matchup for the Patriots.
Their defense gives them problems all the time. But what do you notice now with the Patriots, the shift? Do you see the shift?
Yeah, the shift is they don't have to win the game on offense. The defense can win the game.
And what does that bring you back to?
Well, it brings you back to when the Patriots were winning Super Bowls.
Yeah. That's why I'm really confident. That way that defense is playing now. I think in the last 5 years, that game against San Diego, the Patriots put more pressure up the middle. They were moving the offensive line back. They haven't done that in a while. But they got some big guys. Well, your pal there, he's good.
Silver Salinga came back, and Branch is gigantic.
But Salinga, Ron, he's real good. If he stays healthy, people are going to be shocked how good he is. You got him in there, and you got Branch coming in. You got Jones, Chris Jones. And what's his name? The #1 draft pick's not doing well.
Oh, easily. Yeah, we don't know what his situation is.
I don't know what's going on with him. He should be penetrating more into the backfield.
Well, his health hasn't been great. And, but obviously the big statistic predicting champions has been quarterback rating differential. So the Patriots are allowing something like an 83 quarterback rating this year, which is Seattle, I think, was 84, 85. So they're really doing a good job in pass defense, which is understandable. They have, obviously Revis. They have McCourty, who's terrific as a safety, and Browner. He may get a lot of penalties, but people are not running free in the secondary they have to be at least have one eye open for Brown.
Yeah, but they're looking to call penalties on him.
Yeah, it's true. But he got away with one early when he had the guy's
Yeah.
shoulder pad.
Well, the second time, yeah. But the one illegal contact wasn't. It was the guy just started going. He hit him in the shoulder pad, and that was it. But that hit, someone else might have got away with it. He drilled a guy. I mean, he's 230-something pounds. He drilled in the receiver, and that was a big play because the Patriots intercepted it.
Well, it was a great example of how you can get a concussion without getting hit directly in the head. If your body, your head snaps back, your brain rattles around, and so he didn't lose consciousness, but he obviously had a concussion. You didn't take the MD degree to see that.
No one didn't realize with a concussion that your brain doesn't get bruised.
No, if you
Explain that, Ron.
Well, if you do a structural test like a CAT scan or an MRI, you don't see anatomical changes. Obviously, there are chemical changes that occur when the brain undergoes what's called a contre coup. It rattles around inside that box that's our skull. And people understand a lot better that a series of them puts you at risk for chronic traumatic encephalopathy, and you're particularly vulnerable if you go back in after having a concussion. So you really have to have a concussion heal completely before you resume playing.
No one else I heard too is that you recover from it quicker when you're not under stress. Forget about running, just sitting there. They want you to be calm. They don't want you. They don't want stress.
Right. They don't want you to be watching television, playing video games, reading, studying. You're just supposed to rest. And there's a big change in undergoing in treatment of concussions, and I'm pretty sure that that's going to result in better results for a lot of people going forward. For players who have been in the NFL for 10 years, it's not going to do anything for them because they've already had the damage done. Now, as for the Patriots, this week they play the Dolphins, and the Dolphins haven't really been an easy matchup for them over the years. Their defense, for some reason, gives the Patriots trouble, and the Dolphins are a really uneven team. They beat San Diego 37-0 a few weeks ago, and then you never know what they're going to do the next week.
But no one really we just talked about it. What makes you really comfortable as a Patriot fan now is that defense. You say to yourself, okay, if Brady has a tough time, if Dolphins play good defensively, they hold the Patriots down a little, you got that defense. And the way the defense is playing, don't forget, the last 6 games they've gone up against real good quarterbacks, and they're getting better and better. And you're looking at, they play without Hightower. Those 2 guys they picked up, Ayers and that other guy.
Ayers and Casillas have both done really well. Ayers has been a revelation, really.
Casillas, too, has played good.
And then it shows that, it was sort of the sky is falling when Tavon Wilson makes 2 tackles in a game, 2 tackles in a season.
How about Harmon? Harmon played pretty good when he came in, too. I don't know if something happened to Chung.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, we'll go back to the Red Sox for the final few minutes here. Red Sox obviously, they have so many uncertainties in the pitching staff as of now. They have a bullpen that needs a lot of work. Andrew Miller signing with the Yankees who lost David Robertson to the White Sox. And the White Sox also traded for Samardzija from the A's. So the White Sox are kind of rebuilding their team in a hurry. Maybe the Cubs are trying to keep up with them. And then the lineup looks pretty set everywhere except maybe first base. And it's not very clear whether the Red Sox are thinking about trading Napoli because he's got 1 year in his contract. We'll see. Obviously in the outfield, it'll be Hanley Ramirez in left, Castillo in center field, and presumably Betts in right. And Victorino, you don't know what his health situation is.
Well, that's if they make the trade. They got a number of outfielders.
Oh yeah, they've got Nava, they've got Alan Craig, who.
Cespedes too.
Well, I'm already assuming Cespedes is traded.
For Hamill?
Well, I
deal?
No, I think Cespedes would probably go to either San Diego or maybe to Detroit. Apparently, Detroit's interested in trading Porcello, who's kind of a middle of the rotation starter.
Good starter.
Yeah, he's all right. But you're going to get a number 3 for Cespedes. You're not getting a number 1. That's
no, he only has 1 more year, and he wants to become a free agent.
Right.
So and he's already said that.
And then the Red Sox are going to need some bullpen help. We'll see with that. Maybe they think they can get enough from the guys they have, like Workman, who seem to be better out of the bullpen than as a starter. But right now, the top 2 starters are Buchholz and Kelly. neither of them really are proven to be more than a 3, and Buchholz is hardly ever healthy.
I like De La Rosa. I like De La Rosa a lot. I mean, he's got talent. You know, yeah, it wasn't consistent, but geez, he throws the ball in the upper 90s. He's got that good slider. So,
Yeah, as far as, the Red Sox, we always overvalue the minor league players. You look at, like the Yankees, Betances was phenomenal this year out of the bullpen. He got the Rookie of the Year, right? He was terrific, and maybe he'll close for them this year.
well, he'll close, and Miller will be the setup man.
Right, I mean, he has great stuff, and he could tell you it's coming and you won't be able to hit it.
The Yankees traded Green, too, a good young pitcher. He's 25 years old.
For a shortstop.
For that shortstop, who's supposed to be tremendous. Well,
Right.
a couple of guys in work told me he's very good.
So we'll see what happens in that regard. But the Red Sox, they need 2 top-of-the-rotation starters, and
Well, they're going to do something. They'll get Hamill if they don't get, I don't think they'll get Scherzer because they're not going to pay the big money. He's going to
No.
get up close to $30 million a year.
well, right, if Lester gets $25 million a year, Scherzer's going to get the same kind of money.
I'm hoping the
then-
Yankees get him because if Tanaka comes back healthy and Pineda, and they got Sabathia, I have an adjective for him. Sabathia, I don't know what they're doing with Kuroda, but hopefully they sign McCarthy.
Well, nobody's got an unlimited budget, but the Red Sox, to me, people say, well, the Red Sox, we're not the Yankees. How are you any different from the Yankees? You're just buying players left and right. You're probably going to go over the salary cap. If you do that, then you are exactly the same as the Yankees.
We've been predicting it for the last. What
Right.
did we said the last time when they Crawford and Gonzalez? What did I tell you in that first
the
show
Red
we
Sox,
had?
They are so driven by public relations, ticket sales, and television
Well, that's
ratings.
what it is.
Television ratings. So last year it was painful to watch a Red Sox game. Watching 2 or 3 innings was about as much as you could stand. And we'll see how it goes.
No, what's funny too is they say Pedroia now is healthy, is versus healthy. I mean, he's going to have a huge. Pedroia was joking around. I'm going to hit 400, this and that. I mean, it's unbelievable. They don't know. I mean, he's one of my favorite players, but he's gone down steadily the last few years.
Well, it's like Maserati said. He said today on the radio that he hated going to the baseball winter meetings because he said all people do is lie to you all day long. Red Sox saying Pedroia's wrist is as strong as it ever was. I don't think so. You hurt your knee, your ankle, your wrist. It's never as good as it was.
But you know how quick things move, though? If they sign Lester, everybody's excited again. They're going to be the favorites with that lineup they have. The Lester will be the number 1 starter. They'll probably get another starter, maybe Shields, someone
Well, if
like
they're
him.
going to trade for Hamels, they're going to have to trade either Swihart, Betts, or who's the lefty?
Well, Holt. Owens, you mean?
Owens. Yeah. So
Owens, like you said, you're not crazy about him because he only throws like 93.
low 90s. You just never know.
Holt's going too, I hear. Teams are after him.
I know the Angels want Holt, but I don't know if they have some reliever they're trying to get rid of.
But the big thing is if they get Lester, they're going to get another pitcher and everybody's going to be excited again. And it's good because,
Well, they should spend money because Lord knows they're charging people a fortune when it's $5 for a water and $8 for a beer and $150 to sit on the maybe more to sit on those monster seats. So the fans, if you're going to charge them a king's ransom to go there, you really should deliver a better product.
You know what's going to be the best bargain? Besides the Yukon girls.
Girls hockey.
The best, how did you know? The best bargain, people don't know about this team. We did the games last year. The girls hockey team, Melrose girls hockey team, go watch them play. They got a ton of young stars that are going to become top players. I'm telling you, there are going to be scholarships left and right going out in another 3 or 4 years.
Support all the local teams this winter. I've enjoyed being with you. I'm Ron Sen.
And I'm Ralph LaBella, and thank you for watching Let's Talk Sports.